Good morning. Did you have Zach Wilson outscoring Patrick Mahomes on your football is weird bingo card? Is this Taylor Swift's fault? Is she the problem? Let's get into it. Good morning and happy Monday. Welcome to Club Fantasy's Monday Hangxiety. This is the show where we recap the previous week's action and let you know when it's time to panic and when it is time to chill the fuck out. With me, as always, founder of Club Fantasy. He loves when we throw that title at him, Joshua Hudson. Josh, again, I don't know, you're a changed man this season. You're not hungover. You're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm loving every minute of it. And we were talking a little bit. I'll bring a backstage, front stage. Your preparation for this show is top notch. You have so many notes this week, and I'm loving every bit of it, buddy.
Yeah, I felt like I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants last year because I was so damn hungover half the time. So I said, you know what? We're doing something a little different this year. So I trying to pay attention to as many of the games as I can. Obviously, that's how we help people win. And I want to kind of not react so much as a fan and more as an analyst, right? Or fanalist, or whatever the fuck people want to call us these days. So
consumer.
Well, whatever.
You want to be an analyst, but I like it.
I'm a football consumer passing off as a fantasy analyst.
Oh, let's be clear. That is every one of us, and anyone who says otherwise is a fucking liar. But no, I love it. And like I said, I to tell people mine, I watch the hell out of red zone during the 1 o'clock games. And then my attention span starts to fade. And I usually get a little bit into the 4 o'clock games. And then my PlayStation starts calling my name and I'll end up throwing a game in and playing a game.
See, I'm similar in a sense. Like I'll focus a lot on the 1 o'clock games. And then 4 o'clock, it's like, all right, stats, notes, graphics, timestamps, keeping everything on the computer next to me, like kind of going through and doing all of that. So yeah, still paying attention. So
no,
it's no video games for me.
Yeah, that's my Monday. Monday, like especially every 4 weeks, I go into my weekly base rankings and start to adjust what I was right on, what I was wrong on, because obviously there were some people we were very, very wrong on coming into the season, and it's time to get them their due respect. So Faith throws in the time to panic is now.
That's just because I waxed her in the Dynasty League.
As Kelly did me. Kelly, Faith and I came into this week 3-0 and are leaving this league limping into 3-1. And I think we're going to fall because of the points you guys scored. I think Faith and I might fall to 5th and 6th from 1st and 2nd because you guys went off in scoring. It was ridiculous. This is what this show's about, George. So yeah, nothing like having Stefon Diggs pop off just to get raked by AJ Brown and Christian McCaffrey. Believe it or not, if I saw the show sheet correctly, we're not even going to talk CMC this week, but I'm sure there's going to be some AJ Brown talk.
Yeah, there's definitely some AJ Brown talk. There's going to be some Stefon Diggs talk. At this point, CMC is like a broken record. Yeah, like, dude, if he wasn't your 101, you did not pay attention to this show at all.
Let me be clear. Like, I don't even know that we can call him a broken record. That is the right kind of broken, baby.
No, well, but that's what I'm saying.
I know what you meant. Broke Jerry Rice's record for consecutive games as a 49er with a touchdown. 1 touchdown off of breaking an NFL or tying an NFL record yesterday that they instead are feeding the ball to Kyle Juszczyk. Not a fan of that move. And George, you're a part of the show this week. Flex Tank Dell, terrible choice. Should have gone with Pacheco. I'm not going to make that call, but I am going to argue with you here. Nico Collins is the clear-cut wide receiver 1. I do not for a second believe Tank Dell was a flash in the pan. I think this was a week where it was not a great week for him. I think Tank Dell is going to have better weeks in the future. I like him as a player.
See, and that's the thing. I thought the complete opposite. I thought this would be the week where it would be all Tank Dell, get rid of the ball quickly, let him utilize his yards after catch ability. That Steelers pass rush was going to get after him. 0 sacks by the Steelers front 4. 0. Yeah. From the entire defense, mind you, 0 sacks.
Yeah.
Texans are doing something right.
Yep. Folks, if you've never tuned in the show before, first and foremost, thank you for watching. This is a show where Josh and I go through the week 4 matchups, talk about what we think is significant, what we think is not significant. And we're happy to have you throw your griefs in the in the chat. Throw your Monday miracles you need in the chat. We'll tell you whether we think it's going to happen or not. Your interaction makes this a better show. We're going to get started by recapping what has already happened in week 4. Back on Thursday, the Lions beat the Packers 34-20, and the game was not as close as that score would lead you to believe. Big David Montgomery game. To the surprise of many people, including myself, who benched him everywhere. Jaguars handled the Falcons in London 23-7. Rams sneak by the Colts. I think that's fair to say. Went into overtime in Indianapolis 29-23. Puka Nacua scoring his first touchdown of the season at the most important time. The fucking Baltimore Ravens wax the Cleveland Browns 28-3.
Yeah, I got a bone to pick with you, dude.
Yeah, the whole world does. Kelly Singh said it best on Twitter. She said, this is the top defense. She's like, that's the data I wish I didn't follow. So we're going to talk more about that one. Vikings 21-13 over the Panthers. Titans 27-3 over the Bengals. We're going to talk about that one later. Buccaneers 26-9 over the Saints. Tampa Bay handling business in the NFC South. The Buffalo Bills 48-20 over the Dolphins. The Dolphins win 70-20 and then lose 50-20. That's not the kind of ping pong you want in your football team. Broncos 31-28 going into Chicago. Two bad teams playing football against each other. Broncos come out on top. Philadelphia needs overtime but handles business 34-31. More on that one in just a second. Surprise of the week. Anyone who says this is lying if it's not the surprise of the week. The Texans beat the absolute shit out of the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-6. Raiders could not hold it down against the Chargers 24-17, even though they started a rookie quarterback. 49ers.
And the Chargers were trying to charger this game away.
100%. The Chargers are a problem. Brandon Staley is a problem. And Justin Herbert's hand might be a problem. The 49ers 35-16 over the Cardinals went exactly how we expected it to go. I want to say this went how we expected it to go, but it still looks ugly. 38-3, the Cowboys beat the shit out of Joe's Patriots. And then the Chiefs sneak by the Jets. It could have been 30-20, but Patrick Mahomes is a team player. 23-20 over the Jets. Zach Wilson, 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions in the game. Apparently he didn't get the memo that he's washed up already.
This is what I want to say briefly about this game. First off, props where props were due. Zach Wilson came out and played. I know that fumble essentially cost them the game, but he played like a second overall draft pick in this game, finally. Like, he was looking good. And I know there's probably just some learning curve there with, learning Hackett's system, XYZ, whatever. But he was utilizing his legs, his athletic ability, the arm talent. Everything was there. He was looking good. This is where a really good defense can show up, when they don't have all of the pressure on them to take this game by the reins and do everything themselves to pick things up for the offense. The offense. When you're playing complementary football, the Jets defense will look good against a team as good as the Chiefs.
Absolutely.
If Zach Wilson continues to play like this, the Jets can make the playoffs. That's what I'll say.
And Scampers will just let you know that it was the loss of the stupid bandana. He's a new man. Takes football seriously now.
I still have an issue with that holding call on Sauce. Like, I know it kind of goes back and forth. Like, you can say, look, it was a hold, and I get it. It's the same issue we had back in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and Eagles, where the Bradbury hold was called a hold, but they weren't calling it all game long. So why call it then? It's the same thing in this game. You weren't calling it all game long. Why do you take it now to call that hold?
Yeah.
Great
points being brought up in the chat, guys. We are going to get to your comments. I want to get a little bit of the show started just because Josh did such a great job prepping this week. So let me get a little bit of this after we talk about the Eagles. I'll get back to some of these comments. First category we like to go over is the unnecessary shot of Rumplemintz, because you're waking up hurting in the morning. These are the key injuries from last week. Mike Evans injures the hamstring. I believe he's 28 years old. That matters because hamstring injuries on 28-year-old wide
older
receivers.
Than that, actually.
29 maybe. Regardless, Keenan Allen showed what this could be last year. This could be a 7 to 12 week injury. We need to keep an eye on Mike Evans.
I'm not going to like this, Ryan. He's 30.
Is he really? That makes it even worse. He's dead. So Mike Evans is dead. Sorry. R.I.P. One of my favorite players. Javonte Williams, hip injury. I think they called it a hip flexor. Not expected to miss much time. Pat Freiermuth, hamstring injury. Always got to watch those. T. Higgins, rib fracture, is expected to miss significant time from what I'm hearing. I would call this 4 to 6 weeks. I would also not be surprised if he hits that IR.
It doesn't matter. Jamar Chase, always fucking open.
Again, we'll talk more about that offense. Kenny Pickett knee injury, and the little blurb I read, 4 to 6 week recovery. This could be another IR stint. Davante Adams injured his shoulder. He actually returned to the game. And then we cover IDP on this show. Matthew Judon left the game diagnosed with a lower bicep tear, and Christian Gonzalez left with a shoulder injury. Have they announced on Judon a bicep tear would put him out for the year, correct?
I haven't heard a final diagnosis or prognosis yet, but yeah.
Speaking of out for the year, Trey White for the Bills, Achilles injury, believed to be a torn Achilles. He's done for the year. Interesting. Myles Garrett seen in a walking boot after the game, but said he will be ready for week 5. Justin Herbert played through a finger, which
they have a bye week 5, so it'd be week 6 for him.
Okay. He said next game. I alluded to week 5, so he said he'll be fine. Justin Herbert played through what they're now calling broken finger, non-throwing hand. They splinted it during the game. He said he is not going to miss any time. Matthew Stafford, hip injury. He's 80 years old, but he says there is no doubt he will play their next game. But while those are the injuries, let's get into the good. Your boys still undefeated, Josh. It's up with the Birds. Josh reacting to the Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, this was the last 2 weeks have been the AJ Brown show. 13 targets, 9 catches, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns this week. Combined over the last 2 weeks, 27 targets, 18 catches, 306 yards, and those same 2 touchdowns. Apparently, animated arguments on the sidelines caught by cameras can do wonders for the stat sheet. Yeah. But this is the one thing that we can really take away from this. Obviously, AJ Brown is dominating. Devonta Smith is still getting his 7 for 78 this week. Solid night. Dallas Goedert is the odd man out.
Done.
This is shaping up the exact same way that the 49ers offense is. You have 1 or 2 key playmakers, and for obviously the San Francisco, it's CMC. Right now, it's Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel had 0 catches last week.
Brandon Ayuk looks so good.
He looks like a dominant wide receiver in the NFL right now. And then Deebo kind of gets his, and then Kittle just kind of shows up if somebody gets hurt. That's what you're looking at with Dallas Goedert right now. If you are trotting Dallas Goedert out weekly starting in fantasy football, don't. Yep. Honestly, I don't want to say drop him outright, because I wouldn't say that about Kittle, because you would get those same type of 6 for 98 and 2 touchdown type weeks just off a drop of a hat. And you can do that here with Goddard. But unless these guys are healthy, if Brown, Smith, DeAndre Swift are all healthy, Dallas Goedert is basically a figment of Jalen Hurts' imagination at this point. It is going to run through those 3.
Goddard is a high-end sleeper. And what you want to do is you want to make the bench spot to where you can still stream tight ends every now and then, where you can go get a guy like Evan Ingram this week, who had a much higher ceiling than Dallas Goedert. Now, Ingram probably wasn't on waivers, but there were players out there. That's kind of the point.
I mean, DeAndre Swift, obviously a little quieter this week, seemed to be the focal point, was the passing attack, back-to-back games with 37 pass attempts. This was Jalen Hurts' first 300-yard game. And that's something that the Eagles have done really well the last couple of years. When a defense has a strength, they pivot. Washington has a really good defensive line. They're not going to be run on very often. Philly pivots, they throw the football. It's a younger secondary back there. So it made sense to attack them that way. But the offensive line, for as dominant as they were the last couple of weeks, they struggled in this game. And I know they played a much better defensive line. They lost Cam Jurgens, the left guard. I'm excited to see Tyler Steen, who was their rookie 3rd-round pick out of Alabama, come in. He was competing with Jurgens for that guard spot in the preseason. He's got like 20 pounds on Jurgens. Jurgens is a center by trade, and he had to put on weight to become a starting guard. Think about boxers when they move up weight classes. They're not as effective when they put on that extra weight because they're not used to playing and performing at certain levels. Jurgens, I think, is going to be the same thing. If Steen can come in and truly perform next to Kelce and between Kelce and Mailata, this could be his job, and Jurgens just goes back to being Kelce's heir apparent whenever Kelce decides to retire. But the issues for me on this team right now are the defense. The back end looks terrible, and I've said this for weeks. Our safety position is rough. Sidney Brown, the rookie, he missed this game due to injury, but I believe Evans was out as well. So that's down 2 safeties. We're playing with Steelers retread, Terrell Edmonds, and then just whatever else we can throw back there. with next to Reed Blankenship. Like, you've got Slay, you've got Bradbury. Those guys know what they're doing. But if they don't have any help on the backside, they can only do so much, especially when we're not playing 70% man coverage. And with Hassan Reddick finally getting the cast off, he got his first sack this week. Exactly. Hopefully that picks things up, but this defense needs to get going. We've got the Rams next week, Puka Nacua, and I don't know, maybe Cooper Kupp comes back. Those guys are going to have a field day on this secondary, especially if we can't get to Stafford and pressure them. And being a cross-country road trip, I would not be surprised if we don't win this game.
You've been tempered expectations on the Eagles, and what I'll say is you're absolutely right to temper your expectations. They feel like last year's team light. Last year's team pivoted when they needed to pivot. They threw when teams expected them to run. They're just not doing all of that, especially on defense. They're not doing everything together.
Exactly. They're doing one thing great, one thing not great. They're not putting together complete performances. The upside, yes, they are 4-0. That's fantastic. And when you're winning football games while you're not playing your best football, that is the best thing that you can ask for. But when you look at their schedule and they have like 4 or 5 games against Dallas and the Kansas City and San Francisco and Miami, and I think there's one other that I'm missing. Like, that is an absolute gauntlet.
Yeah.
That they're the Bills as well, they're playing. Yeah. Like, that is a gauntlet schedule within like a 5-6 week period. If they're not playing their best football, they're going to lose more than half of those games.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem. And like you said, you brought up the Rams this week. The Rams are kind of doing what the Eagles did last year. They're doing enough to figure out games, and it's working out better for them. Yeah,
I think with a veteran quarterback, the Colts probably win that game. Oh, I'm not 100%. Saying that Anthony Richardson like blew that game for them. I'm just saying that they start better. Like, it took Richardson a little bit to get going, but he's looked the part. We knew he was going to struggle with the accuracy issues, but he's looked the part this year.
Yeah, shout out to George on saying, they haven't played well. And like I said, Josh has been very realistic about the Eagles this year. Folks, I'm going to get to some comments right now. I do want to let you know if your comments lead into something that's going to pop up on the show sheet later, we might just save that. I want to go to Scamper's comment where he brought up how it's not great for Goddard that Kes Watkins didn't play yesterday either. So they even have inactive wide receivers, and it's not working out real well. George had a comment a little while back, just to pivot to some other teams, that the Dolphins are refusing to integrate Jaylen Waddle in the offense. Very different from last year. I noticed that too. A big thing last year that kind of saved Waddle, I think he had 18, 19 yards per catch, which is not what you expect out of Jaylen Waddle. So he had a good season, but it was made great by a number that you didn't expect from him. And so now this year, he's not really seeing integration into the offense. He's not seeing volume. He's not seeing as much efficiency. This is Tyreek Hill's offense and maybe Devon Shan's offense.
Yeah, that seems to be like, McDaniel's like, ooh, I got a shiny new toy.
And we said that. And then on this show, I openly, after week 2, literally, I'll go back and find the show notes. It said, why draft Devon Shan? Because I didn't get it. And Josh, you told me.
At that point, you were saying Devon A-Chain because that's how he wanted him.
You have no, because I've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time. So whatever I was saying was wrong because you used to yell at me for saying it wrong to begin with. Turns out we were all saying it wrong, or at least not how he wanted it. But what an offense they have there. But man, did they get fucking humbled this week, plain and simple. So,
100%.
And what I wonder is, when we look at some of these takes where these teams get humbled, I brought this up in an article for Football Guys last week. We've seen the Patriots throw the ball way more than what we expected out of them, but they're getting their asses beat. So you don't think that's going to take. And now you see the Dolphins kind of getting humbled, and you wonder if they're like, okay, maybe we need to find a way to get Jaylen Waddle back involved in this offense.
But the thing is, I don't even think it's the offense. That defense can't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah.
The defense cannot stop a nosebleed. They have Xavier Howard, who, as our good buddy Joe Zolo likes to say, is one of the most, if not the most, overrated corners in the NFL. He's going to get his, sure, but he's going to give up a ton on the back end. Javon Holland is more of an in-the-box safety than a back-end center fielder. Outside of that, they got nothing.
Yeah.
Especially after losing Jalen Ramsey, they don't even have much speed in the secondary. So when they go against guys like Stefon Diggs, Diggs is going to have a field day.
Yeah.
And they have all kinds of great receivers on their schedule. AJ Brown. Look what's going to happen. Like, they're going to get boat raced by really, really good teams if they cannot stop them.
Yeah.
When they play the Eagles, do not be surprised if that game is 45-42, because apparently none of those defenses can stop anybody.
Nobody's playing defense. Exactly. Back-to-back Carolina Panthers takes. Scampers, I don't think I knew Scampers was a Panthers guy, but he says he's ready to admit that he would rather have DJ Moore, the 109, and the 2024 first back. Yeah, I think that's a fair fucking assessment, buddy. And man, the Bears are about to be on the clock for picks 1 and 2, just like we predicted. So I'm going to be real interested.
I saw a report that the Panthers were, quote, in the market for wide receiver help. And I couldn't help but laugh thinking, you had a wide receiver, right?
Yeah. I love when you see dumb shit like that. Like, man, well, it's like the AJ Brown, Traylon Burks thing. Like, I understand they didn't want to pay AJ Brown, but it's like, man, I bet you wish
it's not a 1-for-1 replacement, dude.
Exactly. And George chimes in that after this week, he's relatively convinced, or he's convinced the Panthers should have taken CJ Stroud. I think that's a very fair assessment, Josh. We've talked about these rookie quarterbacks, and you've been hyping CJ Stroud. Not that everyone hasn't, but you've been really on that. Like, he looks the most pro ready out of that group without a doubt.
No, and he does. And I've been a Stroud fan. I love Bryce Young, and I'm not throwing in the towel on him by any means.
Not at all.
The big thing is, like, there's always going to be the issues of height, right? Like, CJ Stroud's a little taller, so obviously he can see over people. He can make the decisions, blah, blah, blah. But you also have to consider the scheme. Like, the way that Bobby Slowick has built this scheme around this young Texans offense with CJ Stroud at the helm, it's let's get the ball out quickly and make good decisions. CJ Stroud has gone 4 games now without an interception, which is almost unheard of for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, sure, he had some opportunities to throw some interceptions, especially that first game, but it's gone his way, and that's ultimately what we're looking at. With Bryce Young, it has not been. There's been issues at wide receiver, and we said that was going to be the case. They invested in a bunch of retreads that have not been able to stick on teams outside of Adam Thielen, who his knock is just that he's 33 years old. He's not the same player that he was 5-10 years ago. So when you're building around a player, you need to be able to build around that player with people that player can build, that grow with, right?
Yeah.
And they went that route with Jonathan Mingo, but all of us said Mingo is not a wide receiver yet. He's a playmaker. It's basically Laviska Shenault all over again.
Not quite. Here's the one thing I'm going to give him. He is a hell of a run blocker, and that is why he's seeing the snaps he is. But this goes back to what we've always said about tight ends. Being a great run blocker sucks for fantasy.
Exactly. No, there's so many issues there, and a lot of it right now starts with Frank Reich, because the way that offense is being called,
not
awful. It, homie.
Yeah, he needs to pass that play calling on, plain and simple. But no, I like that. Caesar, we get it, man. 1-3. But here's the thing: 1-3 feels a whole lot better than 0-4. So I'm not going to freak out about 1-3. 9 wins to get the playoffs, maybe even 8 wins. You're still well on your way. Just don't panic unless we tell you to panic. And maybe some of your players will come up later on in the show. And what I think might be a new viewer, Jonathan has a question for us. Should he trade Saquon Barkley for, I'm guessing, Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon? His running backs are in shambles outside of Barkley and Kenneth Walker. So right now he has, it sounds like, Barkley and Ken Walker as his starters. He wants to know if he should move on for Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon. I'm going to start off
right now. I want nothing to do with Aaron Jones.
And Joe Mixon, while he's hitting 4.3 yards per carry or so, much more efficient than last year, he's not doing shit with it. So
yeah, I wouldn't.
I would not either.
I wouldn't. I mean, you're basically like, I get it. Barkley is hurt right now. You're not getting anything from him. But I mean, if you look at the point totals from this week, what Jones and Mixon put up, is that truly that much better than the dud that Barkley's giving you because he's not playing? Like, I don't see the value in that at all. Like, you can trot out a wide receiver in your flex. Apparently this is the year of the wide receiver if you're not CMC. Yeah. So, I mean, I would much rather try to plug and play at wide receiver within my flex spot right now, because the way that this Packers offense is going, like, I was excited for Aaron Jones after week 1. Nothing sense. And I don't know if it's just like trying to work his way back through that hamstring injury that he suffered, which caused him to miss a game or 2, or I think it was 2 games.
Yeah.
But like, and I really right now, outside of Jamar Chase, I want nothing on that Bengals offense. Like,
yeah, I think
nothing.
it's fair. To Josh's point, you likely should not be starting 3 running backs unless you have 3 very top 15 guys. The wide receiver 50 has almost 3 points per game more than the running back 50. Your flex spot needs to be filled by wide receivers right now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't think I'm normally a go chase running back depth guy. This isn't the move. Let Barkley get back and get more established, and you might be able to get 2 much better players for Barkley. This is not the move I'm making. Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon are on the downside of their careers. I'm not saying it's going to be a terrible season for them, but there's no guarantee they're bouncing back from where they were.
Facts.
Plain and simple. Segment where we actually finally start talking about week 4 other than the Philadelphia Eagles. The shot of espresso, the quality performance that got the juices flowing over the weekend. Josh, you have so many good ones. I'm just going to let you go in for a little bit. I'll sit back and listen to the sound of your voice.
Yeah, I'll start with Stefon Diggs, wide receiver 2 on the week, 7 targets, 6 catches, 120 yards, and not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns.
And that second touchdown was bananas.
But here's the biggest reason why I want to put the spotlight here on Stefon Diggs. This is the NFL. This is the NFL media. This is every fantasy analyst, every talking head making much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen aren't talking. Stefon Diggs is mad because of XYZ. He forfeited money so the team could invest more. And yeah, good players make good plays. Plain and simple. Stefon Diggs is going to go out there and he's going to play some fucking football. When Josh Allen is in trouble, he's going to look for Stefon Diggs.
Yeah.
Don't make more out of it than it needs to be.
Don't overthink this. Keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly. Kiss the analysis. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
Like, it really is that simple. Like, just stop. Yeah. This relationship was strained. Yeah. Could have fooled me. Seriously. Just stop. Like, and again, we go back to the talk with Miami. Their secondary, #not good. You can throw all over the Dolphins. This whole hyped up train of Vic Fangio might work on the front 4, front 7 maybe. Has nothing to do with the back end. And they have problems there. Now, I will say the Dolphins did play without Jalen Phillips this week. I'm sure that had something to do with that.
Yeah, it hurts.
But this is Josh Allen. Josh Allen balls out against Miami. You should not have disregarded any of this simply because Miami scored 70 last week. But enough Stefon Diggs. Do want to talk about Baker Mayfield because
Josh giving credit to Baker Mayfield.
I gave this man so much shit this offseason. And you know what? I will own it. I was all aboard the hype train of Baker Mayfield going number 1 to the Cleveland Browns back in, I believe it was 2018 when that draft was. I thought he was the guy that would come in and help change that culture in Cleveland because of everything about his attitude, his swagger, his persona, whole 9. It worked for about a year and a half.
I still think they cut bait way too early. I think it was working. I think they saw the dancing butterflies of Deshaun Watson and took their shot prematurely.
No, I just think that Baker is the kind of guy that needs the right coach. Yeah. And that's really what it boils down to. He's not the talent that a guy like a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or even like a Joe Burrow is. He is a really good player that a good to great coach can maximize his skill set based on his scheme. And he is a really good leader because of who he is as a person and the fire that breeds it from him. Yeah. And that will spread out amongst the team. Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator with the Bucs, has tapped into that. And I don't think any of us should have been surprised given what he was able to do with Geno Smith in Seattle. So hats off to Baker Mayfield. 3 more touchdowns this week, 246 passing yards. He has a really good offense around him. He has a lot more playmakers in Tampa than I feel like he really ever did in Cleveland outside of like Nick Chubb. But I just I'm buying in. He was QB5 this week. He's currently quarterback 13 on the season. I mean,
he looks good for that team, which is
especially in a division that is very winnable.
Wide open. Yep.
wide open. And we talk all the time about this, the Bucs, they have a good defense. They can easily win this division sans Tom Brady, and they can look better doing it than they did last year with Tom Brady, because everything was in shambles last year. They can fix that this year. I am on board. And again, I do feel like the Eagles should have probably dropped 40 on this team Monday night last week, but it didn't happen. It is what it is. But again, that's the defense giving us headaches, because that defense is good.
The one point you made that I think deserves some credit, and Baker Mayfield is not Tom Brady by any stretch, but you saw it this week. You put in your notes, he got bent up like Gumby. Baker Mayfield can deal with a shitty offensive line far better than a 44-year-old Tom Brady. And so
thank you, Cleveland Browns. You did something.
Yeah, right? He's been fucking doing it for ages. So while Brady wasn't used to that onslaught, Baker Mayfield, this is another fucking day in the office.
Well, and this is Baker's MO. He's always been a guy that's going to spread the football around. He's going to get through that first read, and he's going to look for the next open guy.
Devin Tompkins, 2 touchdowns, I think, this year. Trey Palmer, 2 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, and both of them scored last week.
Yeah.
After Evans went down. So, sure, Chris Godwin has his, and we said this. We felt that Chris Godwin was going to have a pretty good week this week because, Evans against Lattimore and all that, which, by the way, Evans was doing his thing against Lattimore this week before he left with that hamstring injury. Yep. So, but yeah,
and he was in his head, man. If you watched the way they were jawing, and George chimes in, Baker looks like he's finally in a situation he's comfortable with. Is that not the fucking truth? Because I think we really take that away from people, because even when he went to Panthers, Carolina, the pressure was still there. Now he's replacing Sam Darnold. The defense was not very good. There were the wrong team to surround him. But when he went to the Rams, while he didn't have his best games, he looked a lot more comfortable. And I think that has continued with his time in Tampa Bay.
100%. Love it. And then finally, before I give my quick honorable mention, NICO fucking Collins, baby. I've been a fan of this kid. I invested in him very heavily in dynasty leagues when he first came out. I mean, again, you've got a prototypical wide receiver.
Yeah,
coming in.
He's built for that role.
Coming into a situation where he can very easily become the wide receiver 1. And everybody wrote him off because if you can't do it in the first 2 years, apparently you can't do it. Well, remember this little thing where it says it takes, the third year wide receiver breakout. Yep. Guess what? This is year 1. Year 3 for NICO Collins. And look what's happening. You get him in a system that works. You get him a quarterback that's not afraid to throw him the damn football.
I was going to say, let's not forget he's growing with Davis Mills, not Deshaun Watson. So.
Exactly. I was fully ready to to just kind of move off and just say, all right, this isn't it. But I had some hopes for this Texans offense, especially them investing so heavily in that offensive line. They are down 4 starters. And it's very difficult for any team to continue to do well when you're down 4 starters of any kind, let alone on your offensive line. 0 sacks allowed to a stout Pittsburgh Steelers front 4. Stroud getting rid of the ball quickly. 0 picks through 4 games. I thought Tank Dell, this would be the game for him with the quick passes, but 9 targets, 7 catches, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns for NICO Collins. He's currently the wide receiver 7 in fantasy football. 0.4 points ahead of A.J. Brown. Put some respect on this guy's name. I firmly believe he will be a top 15 wide receiver by season's end.
Yeah, no reason not to think that.
And my quick honorable mention, Khalil Mack, 6 sacks all by himself.
Yeah.
Joey Bosa, who? This was like the turn back the clock moment for Khalil.
Well, and revenge game. Correct,
yeah.
No, I like that.
Love it.
For my quick ones, Anthony Richardson, while he was not a great thrower of the football this week, 44% completion, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns for a running quarterback who we were comparing to last year's Justin Fields. That's a hell of a third game for this rookie, or second game. Third or second, I don't remember at this point. I don't remember how many he missed. But regardless, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I already brought him up. Give the man his flowers. Justin Fields, 80% completion percentage, 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, and still added 25 on the ground. This felt like Justin Fields. I don't want to make this comparison, Josh, but it does feel this way. This felt like what they did with Jalen Hurts last year, where it's like, oh, you don't think he can throw the ball? He can throw the fucking football. So that was kind of my takeaway here. Is this felt very Philadelphia Eagles-ish, and obviously they're not half the team the Eagles were last year.
They're not even a quarter of the team.
That's fair.
A tenth of the team.
I think there is growth. I also still think it's Caleb Williams if they end up with the first pick, but I think there is growth here that is worth monitoring. And then my second one, just because I was so happy to see this, Josh Jacobs got in the end zone, did his thing, but way more importantly, 11 targets, 8 catches for 81 yards. It took a rookie quarterback to come in and kind of remind Jimmy Garoppolo, like, this guy's pretty fucking good. Maybe we incorporate him. And I'm not saying you don't throw to Davante Adams 20 times a game. Maybe you do. But I don't think Josh Jacobs needs to be written off. And we've talked about him needing to knock the rust off. And I think we're finally starting to see that with Josh Jacobs.
100%.
Josh, I think, did you tweet this? Or maybe you texted it yesterday? Is it time to get Taylor Heineke in the game? Or it might have been Joe. I know Joe's a big Taylor Heineke.
I did tweet that yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, I thought I saw it. So what's your thoughts on this? And I know you've been talking about moving on from her. Actually, you know what? This is in the show notes later on, isn't it?
I was about to say, yeah.
I read it. Sorry, my bad, George. We're going to come back to that one. We're going to move on real quick. Is it Team Money Reacts? Should he trade Sam LaPorta and Puka for Travis Kelce? This is the first time I'm not sure, Josh. So I'm going to let you answer first.
I was about to say, damn it, Ryan. I need you to answer this one first. Look, here's the thing. LaPorta is, hands down, he's very involved in this offense. I think there are 2 big question marks with both of these guys, Sam LaPorta and Puka, because there's unknowns that we don't know yet. Both have been very heavily featured in their offenses through 4 weeks. Detroit gets Jameson Williams back in week 5. The Rams are supposedly getting Cooper Kupp back here in the next couple of weeks.
And he has a reason to come back, which is enormous. If they were 0-4, that's a problem. They are not.
Yes.
So.
The Rams are 2-2. They can legitimately compete. This is Cooper Kupp. We know the relationship with Matthew Stafford. We've seen 2 legit target hogs in a Sean McVay offense coexist, going back to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Still, Puka is a rookie. There's a lot of true unknowns here. Travis Kelce is the GOAT. Let's just call a spade a spade. He's going to have some up and down weeks. That's everybody in the NFL. But even 10 points, a down week for a player, that's a top 5 week for the
Josh, I'm gonna interrupt your analyst real quick here. He has TJ Hawkinson too. And I think that changes where we might go with this.
I mean, at that point, you don't need Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I'm not understanding everything he's writing here.
So, all right. So he's got Fields, Jacobs, Kieran Williams.
Oh, okay.
Amon-Ra, Olave, Ridley, Puka, Hawk.
And he has Kupp.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's a true need to make that deal. I understand it's an 18 league, but
he is saying this though. He has plans on getting Kelce and then maybe flipping something for Tyreek.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if your league platform calls for this, but maybe try to actually formulate a 3-team deal.
Yeah, if you're on
that way you don't have to. So that way you don't have to bank on another team saying yes after you've already made the deal. I know with Sleeper you have that ability to do 3, 4, 5, 10, 5-team trades, whatever it may be. I don't believe you can on ESPN, and I haven't played on Yahoo or NFL in God knows how long. So, but if you can formulate something like that where you're giving up LaPorta and Puka and just getting Tyreek Hill versus getting Kelce and then flipping for Hill, I would much rather do that, because then you can just slide Tyreek Hill into, the Ridley starting spot or Puka or whomever, and you can roll with, adding a couple players, because 18 leagues typically are very, very deep on waivers unless you're starting 12 players in your starting lineup. But that's kind of how I would work that. I don't mind trading those guys given the situation. But again, if your ultimate goal is to go get Tyreek Hill, I would much rather trade those guys to just get Tyreek Hill versus get Kelce to then flip. because you never know if a manager is going to neg on a deal. So
yeah, and I think honestly, we were talking like LaPorta about him being your starter. I think if you went with Hawk and Puka, you might be in the range where you need to get Tyreek Hill, and then just put LaPorta in as your starter at that point. Just a thought there. You're not doing the wrong thing with the trade. You're making the right decisions on this type of trade. I just don't think with the 2 tight ends you have, I love Travis Kelce. My goal is to always have Travis Kelce. I don't think that's the deal to make. Next category, Josh is going to get us started. It's called the hangover. It's the biggest head scratchers of the week. There were plenty of them in week 4. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make this short and sweet because really it's just a bitch fest for me. How the fuck does Chris Olave have 1 catch all damn game? Like, if you were so worried about Derek Carr not being able to drive the football downfield, and he did have, that 1 deep pass where Olave, like, it literally dropped right in the bucket. Just hats off to Antoine Winfield. That was a great pass breakup. But 1 catch for 4 yards? Like, if you're so worried about it, start fucking Jameis Winston. That dude can throw the football out of the goddamn Superdome.
Yep.
Like, it's baffling to me. And I get it. You wanted to get Alvin Kamara involved in this game, which, by the way, that's also a head scratcher. 13 catches for, wait for it, 33 yards? You want to talk about a fucking ADOT that's like that? Holy crap.
That says Kamara's the GOAT, confirmed. And George gave him some shit in the next comment about 13 catches for 7 yards.
Yeah, like, my God. Like, Kamara was all on my downsides this week, even when I appeared on another fantasy show with Chuck Bass and Jagger May on Sunday morning. I was like, I'm not really feeling Kamara. Even at that point, they had switched over to Derek Carr, which in my head probably should have flipped off. Well, if he's got a shoulder injury, he's not throwing downfield. Is probably a benefit to Alvin Kamara at that point. So, which, yeah, exactly. 13 catches, 33
in full
yards.
PPR, it benefited him.
I was going to say, I mean, in standard, he only had 84 total yards. Yeah, I actually was surprised he had 51 yards rushing. I will give him credit for that. But, yeah, this whole Chris Olave thing was just baffling to me. And going the other direction on running backs there, the Miami Dolphins had 8 total touchdowns between 2 running backs last week. Raheem Mostert had 7 carries this week for 9 yards.
Oof.
9 yards. I mean, Achane only had 8 carries this game. And I believe he had 3 more receptions. But he totaled 132 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And
so if Mostert's going to come in with numbers like 7 for 9, why is Achane not your featured back at this point?
Yep. Not to mention JWJ.
Jeff Wilson back.
Yep.
Like, I'm ready to just
next
be like,
week.
Yeah, this is Achane's backfield going forward. And Mike McDaniel, if you don't realize that, maybe we need to have a question on your play calling abilities. Yeah. This is your shiny new toy. Remember, play with him. Leave Mostert to the side. And don't get me wrong, I love Mostert. Just let him return kicks and be a change of pace guy, because that's what he's done his whole career, and that's what he's good at.
My head scratchers this week, the flat performances from the top of the AFC. Miami loses. Kansas City almost loses to the Jets. Cleveland gets smacked by Baltimore. Big problem with only 3 targets to Rhamondre Stevenson in a blowout. Don't understand where the usage is, like why we don't want to throw to probably the best receiver on the team. And then I think the one that has everyone scratching their heads, though, maybe not. I think maybe we're all just done with this guy. Kyle Pitts versus Jonnu Smith. A tight end went off in London, Josh. 6 catches for 95 yards. Unfortunately, it was Jonnu Smith as Kyle Pitts leaves the game with 2 catches for 21 yards, which I believe is just the Kyle Pitts stat line at this point. I think we can just pin that to his name. Wasn't that what he had, like his first 2
basically,
games as a pro or whatever? So
yeah, I'm so mad at this. Like, and this is Arthur Smith, right? Oh, we're not playing fantasy football. Well, you've lost 2 straight games and your best player is not touching the football. So maybe you're the problem, buddy. Just throwing Josh, that out there.
Well, I'm going to have you actually just keep leading in here. So now we can finally get back to me jumping the gun on this. And I want to throw just a couple of George's comments up here. He was obviously in tune with that game. He said it was nothing better than Matt Collins on the bench ready to smack the soul out of Desmond Ridder. And then he asked about Ridder starting. So we're going to get into the migraine. These are the problems, the underwhelming performances that we think are a prelude of what's going to come for the rest of the season. Josh, talk to us about Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, you can't continually trot out Desmond Ridder expecting things to change. Like this is literally the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Desmond Ridder is who he is, and it's not good. So I will take the L because he was my QB1 in last year's class.
And I was right there with you. We loved what we saw on
don't
film.
get me wrong. Kenny Pickett hasn't done much better. Sam Howell hasn't done much better. Like, there are plenty of quarterback. I just think that was just a bad quarterback class. So even if, your number one guy was bad, guess what? Everybody was bad. So take your L and just move on. But, 3 more turnovers this week. Atlanta, again, loses. They got the 1 touchdown to Drake London. Fine, cool, whatever. I don't understand why you're scheming for your backup tight end when you spent a top 5 pick on a tight end 3 years ago.
They traded a 6th-round pick for Jonnu, Josh. They have to get him involved.
Look, my love for Jonnu Smith knows no bounds. I'm excited. I'm glad he's doing it. But it's just you're wasting this guy. Kyle Pitts can flat out be dropped in redraft leagues.
How in the world are teams not calling to get him? They have to trade him. There's no reason to keep him at this point.
If you keep trotting out Kyle Pitts, if you're Arthur Smith, all you're doing is tanking his perceived value.
Yeah. When he tears his ACL, you're getting nothing for him. So.
Correct. And it's just maybe there's some level of, he does this right for us and he's better at it than everybody else. And that's why we're using him this way, et cetera, et cetera. But he's out there running routes. You're just not throwing him the football.
Yep.
That's a Desmond Ridder problem. Move on to Taylor Heineke. He has shown that he has no qualms about throwing the football to anybody, whether it's double coverage, single coverage, or quadruple coverage. He's going to throw the football. If Kyle Pitts is your first read in that offense, Taylor Heineke is going to make that read. He might throw a few picks, but he's going to make that read. Give Kyle Pitts a chance.
Stampers presents an issue with all the rookie quarterbacks sucked last year. Yeah, the guy at the last pick seemed to do pretty well. Not to mention 1 incomplete pass this week. Holy shit, he went 20 of 21.
Yeah, I still say that's a Kyle Shanahan thing, not a Brock Purdy thing. But there's still time to let that develop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway. But yeah, my next head scratcher, it's Calvin Ridley. I'm I was very excited heading into the season, very excited after week 1. But literally since that first half against Indianapolis, he truly has not done much of anything. Yes, he caught a touchdown this week, but outside of that was very irrelevant. Mm-hmm. We talked about this after week 1 where we're like, hey, maybe Christian Kirk is the odd man out here because of how they're using their personnel. Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram right now are the only pass catchers doing a goddamn thing. So he's going to stay on the field as a result because Ridley either can't get out of his breaks or Trevor Lawrence just doesn't trust him with the minimal separation he's getting.
Yeah.
Maybe there's still a little bit of rust that Ridley needs to knock off, or maybe he's just at that wide receiver cliff because remember, he's 29 years old.
Yep.
Not having played football for this long, maybe that's a problem, and we're just overlooking it.
And that's what I was trying to tell people. I'm not trying to say I was right on Ridley. I had him playing way better than this. But what I'm trying to say is I feel like people forget how long it had been since he played football. And that first week, putting it bluntly, he's a different player now than he was in Atlanta. It was a lack of fucking film. They got film on the guy. They're figuring him out. I'm not saying he's cooked. I've been saying for weeks, I think this Jacksonville offense gets better. But I'm not. Christian Kirk was never dead. It was a bad week. So.
Yep.
100%. My migraine is all about the Cincinnati Bengals. I normally don't get anywhere near the amount of research in that Josh does for this show. I went in on this one because I think Joe Burrow might owe the Bengals a fucking refund at this point because everybody wants to blame the O-line, but I started digging into the numbers and they do not support that. He is 21st in the league in QB sacks, meaning 20 quarterbacks have been sacked more than he has. He is 30th in hurries and has only been knocked down 13 times this season. That is top 5, but that's still a pretty low number when you're comparing the other facts that he's 21st in sacks, 30th in hurries. He also happens to be 5th in poor passes according to Fantasy Pros, 29th in air yards, 26th in total yards, and 40 fucking first in yards per attempt. There are 32 teams in this league. There have not been that many starting quarterbacks. He is 41st in yards per attempt. He's the QB 31 in fantasy right now. And way more importantly, the Bengals offense has only scored 49 points this season. That's the fewest in the AFC. And it's the second fewest in the NFL, unless the Giants score 7 points tonight, because they are the only team below the Bengals, and they're also a game behind the Bengals. I am legitimately worried about this offense. I am legitimately worried about Joe Burrow. I want to throw up George from way earlier in the show, Tyler Boyd season. Fuck no, you're not playing anybody but Jamar Chase in this offense.
I was about to say, with the T. Higgins injury, I do think that Tyler Boyd is going to see more run, and this is what I preached in the offseason when everybody was talking about Joe Mixon and the level of targets. Joe Mixon got those targets because T. Higgins missed time, Jamar Chase missed 5 weeks. Joe Mixon is going to see more pass attempts, and as a result, so is Tyler Boyd.
Great. At 4 yards of reception.
Hey, if it works for Alvin Kamara, it can work for Tyler Boyd.
There you go. Wonderful question here, Orion, in that you want nothing to fucking do with T. Higgins and A.J. Dillon. I don't know which side of this trade you're on. Stay far the fuck away from the right side of this trade. You want Tank Dell and Terry McLaurin twice. If they're already on your team, ask that guy to give you a draft pick to keep them on your team, because you want nothing from T. Higgins and A.J. Dillon. Stay far away from that trade.
Yeah, if this is redraft, no, you're definitely... First off, you can flat out outright drop A.J. Dillon in redraft.
Gone.
Gone. Literally no point in him being rostered, because they're like, he's had the opportunities to be the lead back and can't fucking do it. It's baffling to me, which I guess truly isn't that baffling. I wasn't that big on him coming out of college. And, you know,
there's more to football than quads, plain and simple.
Thank you. Exactly. I'm sure he's a great person, plays fantasy football. Love that. Just doesn't belong in your fantasy teams, dude.
Yeah, I bet he's not on his own fantasy roster. Let's just throw that.
He knows.
He knows what's up. Cream or sugar? We bring this one in as the season starts to go. Cream is rising to the top. They're our buy low candidate. Sugar is sell high because they are going to sink to the bottom. Josh, go for it.
For me, I'm looking at Dalton Kincaid, and I know you're going to get a lot of pushback from that. He's, a rookie tight end. He hasn't done anything, yada, yada, yada. 4 catches, only 27 yards this week against a team that you can throw on. But the one thing that I like, the route percentage is up, the usage, snap share, it's all trending up. And this week, it flipped. He outpaced Dawson Knox. And that's what wasn't happening the first 3 weeks. Now, you can clearly make the argument that, Buffalo doesn't throw to the tight ends. They don't utilize the slot very much. This is all Stefon Diggs, yada, yada, yada. Here's the difference to me versus trying to hype up Gabe Davis with that same argument versus Dalton Kincaid. How deep is the wide receiver position? If you're only seeing 5 targets a game, 4 targets a game, catching 3 balls, maybe a touchdown every 3 games, as a wide receiver, you're not going to make much of a dent.
Not at all.
At the tight end position, that's top 10 numbers.
Yeah, no shit.
Let's be honest. That's top 10 numbers.
4 for 27 is perfect at tight end.
Exactly. So if all those numbers are trending up, the touchdowns will come. Even if he only has 4 touchdowns this year, if he's able to see 85 targets by the end of the year, that is a top 10 tight end, and I want that on my team. People have probably outright dropped him. Go grab him. Find a way to stash him. And my sugar, which is my sell high candidate right now, come on. You had to know this was going to come up at a certain point because it is a club fantasy show, and he somehow found a way to have a good week this week.
So you sell the shit out of him immediately.
Go sell the shit out of Cole Kmet. He is currently the tight end 3 on the season because he just caught 2 touchdown passes against apparently what is now the worst defense in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. That's literally all I have to say. If you can package him in a deal to get Sam LaPorta, or if you can add a piece to potentially go get Darren Waller, do it. Get rid of Cole Kmet. Yeah, he's probably going to finish as the tight end 12, which in your head makes him a startable tight end. Last year, he was a top 12 tight end and had all of 3 startable weeks. That is not what you want. Go stream the position, capitalize on the value of that right now, and move off of him and just stream the position moving forward.
So quickly, please get rid of him. My cream is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. I've actually been in quite a few arguments about this over the last couple of days. While Jahmyr Gibbs may be disappointing fantasy managers, I don't think he is actually disappointing the Detroit Lions. And I don't think if you value him correctly, he should be disappointing you as a fantasy manager. Test the waters. The person is probably upset with him right now. If you can bring him to your roster as your flex, you want Jahmyr Gibbs. His floor in PPR is 9 fantasy points. That's fine out of a flex spot. And then when he starts to find the end zone, we're talking 15 and 21 points, which is perfect. He's not less talented than he was in college. He's not Clyde Edwards-Helaire, undersized and not ready for the NFL. This is their offense. And DeAndre Swift showed that you can have value. DeAndre Swift was the RB21 missing 3 games last year. This is going to be fine. He had 99 carries. He got more involved in the passing game. David Montgomery is a hell of a pass catcher himself. So he may not get everything DeAndre Swift had, but I'm betting on the talent of Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm betting on the talent of this offense. Go get Jahmyr Gibbs if the person is frustrated, because there are a lot of frustrated people right now. My sugar, what's that, Josh?
I said facts.
Yeah. Much to Josh's point, DJ Moore is also my sell. Had a hell of a week this week. He is a good receiver. Do not get me wrong, but he's not this good. He is this good. This offense isn't this good for him. Denver sucks. This is not what we're going to see from them every week. There's a reason we're all so ecstatic for the game that Justin Fields had. He doesn't play games like this. So sell DJ Moore now while you're selling high, while he has that very big number next to his name. I'm ready to move on for him, but go get good players. Don't sell low. Sell high. Go get players that people are frustrated with. And Caden, the Colts fan in the chat, Josh, in his keeper league, Justin Jefferson just got moved for Davante Adams, Kenneth Walker, and Romeo Doubs. How bad is that?
I mean, I'd rather have the Davante side.
That's what I'm saying. I think he thinks this is awful for Justin Jefferson. I think this is a good trade for the Jefferson manager. Jefferson's good right now. Wide receiver 1 on the season. Only 13 points ahead of Davante Adams, who just dealt with a bad game with a rookie quarterback who still hyper-targeted him. Kenneth Walker is fucking legit. And I think we all had this bad taste in our mouth from the drafting of Zach Charbonnet and a few bad games and an injury out of Kenneth Walker. The kid is good, and he fits this Seattle offense. And Josh, you were the one who put it in my head before the season. Romeo Doubs is going to lead the Packers in targets this season by a lot.
Well, I think that's more Howard Bender, but I'll take the credit for it.
That's fair though, because I mean, you brought it to me. So congrats to Bender, but you brought it to me. So.
Here's the thing with keeper leagues, right? So depending on your league settings, you're either just keeping 2 players, no matter the draft position, and those essentially are your first 2 round picks, or you're keeping them at the round value that they were drafted. Justin Jefferson was probably the 101. So the only way that he is a value for you to keep is if you end up with like the 109 or 110. That's it. So in this case, it makes sense to move him at some point this season if you feel that you can still get quality players, i.e. a Davante Adams, a Kenneth Walker, or Romeo Doubs, because A, this is going to help round out your team. And in the long run, you're not losing too much going from Justin Jefferson to Davante Adams. Yeah. Kenneth Walker strengthens your RB room, and Romeo Doubs strengthens your flex. If Kenneth Walker continues to do what he's doing this year, you likely are able to keep him for, I don't know, a 5th or 6th round pick. That's kind of where he was falling to in drafts.
And how your draft looked.
So
I just want to quickly throw in, Josh. You know how I play Dynasty more than anyone in the entire world. I don't give a fuck about the future. This is a championship move. This is a win 2023 move, and I like that move for your team. So
yeah, well, and then he chimes into the Jefferson side is now being teamed with Bijan Robinson, Chris Olave. I'm assuming that's Justin Herbert, which, hey, is great. I mean, they're going all in for this year, which, you know, that's what you do in Dynasty.
And I mean, if they could keep all 4 of them.
And that's going to be the other side of it too, is that how many players can you keep? Because if you can only keep 2, then half
I'm
of those
gonna guess
players get
based
thrown
on
back
how
into the pool next year.
I say I'm gonna guess based on how this is phrased, though. I think he might be able to keep all 4 of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. You can be mad, but that's like
here's the
it's
fact of
not
the
an
matter.
unfair deal, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and for the guy who made the trade, Chris Olave has been mid this year. So it's not like he felt like he was building this other team's dynasty. To me, getting Adams, Kenneth Walker, and Doubs, that's a win now move, and I am the most win now human being on the entire planet. Josh, the namesake of the show, it is time for chill the fuck out, the dud or the really good game. That was just a blip on the schedule. We should not expect this every week.
Yeah, I'll lead off with Tua Tagovailoa. He was one of my downsides this week. I said he would have under 250 passing yards. He ended up eclipsing that. He went 284, only 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The Bills are his kryptonite. I think he has 1 win against the Bills. That's it. And it came second year in the league or something like that. But this is kind of what I was expecting, not just because he was playing the Bills, but they just hung 70 points. Like, there was bound to be regression to the mean. So, and that's ultimately what happened. I mean, what'd they end up with? 20 points?
20 points.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty on par. I get that. Bills are a tough defense, and they've played well, and they're doing it without Von Miller, by the way. So it's only going to get better.
Yeah, that was a comment earlier on the show.
If they can, wade the waters through the Tre'Davious White injury. But don't worry. It's a little bit of a down week, sure, but they'll have some tough games on their schedule going forward. There's still some things to work out with this team. Like we said on Wednesday's show, the Dolphins went through and put up 70 points and did not have Jaylen Waddle. I know the question came up a little bit earlier. What are the Dolphins doing with Jaylen Waddle? They'll figure it out. Mike McDaniel is a really good play schemer. He's a good play caller. This offense is really good, and Tua will cook. So give it time. It's a bad week. It happens. Don't fret. And then my other one, Drew Ogletree. People are going to oogle and ogle about this because, he had a touchdown, and he's currently the tight end 5 this week. The Colts have Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson, and Will Mallory also on the roster. Kylan Granson got some run this week. Mo Alley Cox got some run this week. Don't be rushing to your waiver wires to pick up Drew Ogletree.
I think Cox had a touchdown called back if he didn't score it.
I believe he did, yeah.
Yeah, so I watched him score, but I don't think he got credit for it, so it must have got called back. One of mine makes perfect sense, Jordan Addison. It's been a rough 2 weeks, but rookie wide receivers can take time. This offense doesn't seem like it's gelling. He is still the second best wide receiver on this team. He's going to be fine. They're just hyper targeting Justin Jefferson this week. And this was a big run game. We knew Cam Akers and Alexander Mattison were going to be heavily involved in this game. So don't fret on Jordan Addison. Please don't drop him. Every week on this show every year about week 10, we talk about, man, I hope you had patience on those rookies. Have patience. If you draft a rookie, you need to wait. And speaking of having patience, you didn't need to have any patience, but do not freak out. You're going to hear a lot of bullshit this week about Puka Nacua, and Josh already touched on this. You're going to hear a lot of bullshit that he's going to lose everything to Kupp. It's just so simply not true. We have seen this offense hyper-target 2 receivers in the past. Buy. If the Puka manager is afraid of Cooper Kupp, buy him right now. You may never see Tutu Atwell or Van Jefferson get a target in a game again. Like ever again. It's going to be 12 to Puka, 12 to Cooper Kupp. That is this offense moving forward. Do not be afraid of Cooper Kupp returning. Plain and simple.
Facts. I dig it.
All right, guys, that is the end of the show. We're going to talk a little bit about the Monday night game. No deep waivers from Mark this week. He's not feeling well. Our thoughts to Mark. I hope you feel better, buddy. I went ahead and did just a quick little run with it. I stuck with his old guy corner. Latavius Murray, 94% available right now. He's playing more than Damian Harris, and he's being far more productive. You also want to look at running back for Jaleel McLaughlin and Ronnie Rivers. 99% available for both of them. Jaleel McLaughlin, they're dealing with a Javonte Williams injury, and Samaje Perine sucks. Like, he's just not that good. Ronnie Rivers is the new backup running back with Cam Akers gone, and if something happens, God forbid, to Kyren Williams, Ronnie Rivers is likely going to take over that backfield. He did it 2 or 3 years ago when they were having their running back issues. Those are guys that are available in 99% of leagues. That's the point of this. These are deep waivers. You might even be able to find these guys in some dynasty leagues. At wide receiver, Michael Wilson, Trey Palmer, both young wide receivers, both 98 to 99% available. Michael Wilson has clearly stepped into the wide receiver 2 role for Arizona. Even in a deeper redraft league, Michael Wilson deserves to be on a roster. Trey Palmer, if Mike Evans misses time, Trey Palmer is looking like a legitimate red zone threat. It's how he scored both of his touchdowns so far this season. If there's not going to be Mike Evans, it's going to be the Chris Godwin show, but I think Trey Palmer can sneak some touchdowns in there. Those are the guys you're looking for on deep waivers, all available. Every player I named today available in at least 94% of ESPN leagues. Keep a lookout for those guys. Josh, we have Seattle at the Giants tonight. Seattle is a 1.5-point road favorite. The over-under on this game is 47.5. What do you expect to see tonight?
Hopefully a huge Geno Smith game so I can beat my boss in my work league, because I somehow left 90 fucking points on my bench because I didn't start Anthony Richardson, because I didn't start David Montgomery. That was
my God, I benched him so many
And then
places.
I blame you for benching and pivoting off of Mark Andrews. So if Geno Smith doesn't ball out, I'm chiming in on Wednesday because I probably will not be there, and you're getting an earful.
And a very fair earful. I also benched Mark Andrews. I am a man of my word. I benched him for Zach Ertz. Didn't quite work out well for me, so I completely and utterly understand. But Josh, I also need Geno Smith to ball out to win quite a few games tonight, so we'll be rooting on the same things. I do think Seattle takes this road win. I think the Giants are a very, very bad football team. I would take the under, and I would take Seattle giving the points. I'm not worried about 1.5. That's how I would play this game.
Not having Saquon tonight, Giants just don't stand a chance in my opinion.
Yep. So that's how I'll be betting this game. Tail me, fade me, do whatever you want to do there, but that's how I'll be betting it. A couple of questions from our new viewer, Caden the Colts fan. In this league, Superflex, his team is Anthony Richardson, Lamar Jackson, Rhamondre Stevenson, James Cook, Michael Pittman, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, George Kittle, Dameon Pierce, Hopkins. He's 1-3. Your issue is the fact that Rhamondre Stevenson is being fucking ignored, because the rest of your team is fine. Pittman's going to be hit or miss, but if that's AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb, you have very little to be worried about moving forward. This is one of those things.
Well, except tight end, because Kittle's a ghost.
Kittle is a ghost, but so is every other tight end. It goes back to what we gave, the advice we gave on Goddard earlier. Do not drop Kittle, but make room on your team for a second tight end that you can start to stream without necessarily cutting your guy. So it's just one of those things. And then he said, how interesting. Puka
love this.
Threw his gloves to him, and he was able to sell them for $600 within the hour.
That's awesome, dude. Congrats.
Stack that cash, Caden. Welcome to the show, buddy. Please hit subscribe. Everybody who stuck with us this show, we do this show every Monday to help you guys, panic, freak out, just kind of vent.
It's a vent session, man.
Exactly. So please go ahead and he has Dalton Kincaid already. You have the exact tight end room. That's exactly what you want. But that's what this show is all about. And as I always say, if you hit subscribe on YouTube, it costs you absolutely nothing, but it gets us just a little bit closer to monetization. We're able to keep giving you guys this great content. We go live 5 times a week. We have DFS shows. We have start sit shows. We have little kids giving you the cutest and best fantasy advice that you could possibly get in fantasy football. We are here to support you guys. Josh, take us out of the show talking about what else Club Fantasy has.
Yeah, we got Wednesday, no pun intended. Thursday, the sneaky flex. Hopefully we'll have the Don't Get Too Cute Thursday. If not, it'll be on Friday. DFS Academy Friday morning. Starts a different day on Saturday. Those would be your shows that we'll be doing. Articles. We got Ryan, your Pick 'em Up article on Tuesday morning.
Yep.
DFS matchup report Wednesday. Wide receiver matchups.
Yep.
A-list DFS streams of the week Thursday. A whole 9 yards. So
yeah, Club Fantasy during the season is now putting out more DFS articles than we are anything else. So you want to be here if you're playing DFS.
100%. So be sure to bookmark the website, clubfantasyffl.com. You can always hit the link in the YouTube description as well. Club Fantasy FFL on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. Always be sure to hit us with questions, comments, whatever you want. We love chatting with the fans, because at the end of the day, this is why we do this, man. It's all fun. It's work, but it's fun work. So
there are no analysts if there are not consumers, plain and simple.
100% facts.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all the comments. We'll be back next Monday. I hope you guys get all your Monday miracles tonight. Have a good day.